It was a bright Saturday afternoon, and the Thompson family had been looking forward to their dinner plans all week. Maddie Thompson, a confident woman in her mid-30s, had worked tirelessly to provide for her two children, Alex and Sophia. After a long week of juggling work and life, they deserved a treat, and Maddie had decided to reward them with a meal at Grizzled, one of the best and most prestigious restaurants in town. Dressed in a stylish outfit that perfectly matched her vibrant personality, Maddie felt a sense of pride as she glanced at her children. Alex, with his wide grin, and Sophia, her eyes sparkling with excitement, couldn't wait to dig into the restaurant's famous dishes. They had spent the whole week talking about the food they would enjoy tonight. As they approached the restaurant's entrance, which buzzed with activity, laughter filled the air, and the warm smell of delicious food welcomed them. But as they neared the door, something strange happened. A woman, dressed in a uniform, stood in front of the entrance, blocking their way. Her expression was cold and uninviting. Her name tag read Evelyn, and from the way she looked them up and down, it was clear she didn't want them there. Maddie stopped in her tracks, surprised by the woman's behavior. "Excuse me," Maddie said politely, trying to remain calm and composed despite the uncomfortable feeling creeping up her spine. "We have a reservation for 3 under the name Thompson." Evelyn didn't respond immediately. She crossed her arms and scrutinized them with disdain. The look in her eyes was harsh, her body language dismissive. Maddie's heart began to race. Something wasn't right here. She looked around, seeing other guests casually entering and leaving, but Evelyn seemed determined to keep the Thompson family out. After what felt like an eternity, Evelyn finally spoke, her voice dripping with indifference. "I don't think you belong here." Maddie froze. What did she just say? She could hardly believe the words coming from the woman's mouth. "What do you mean? We have a reservation. We're just here to enjoy dinner," Maddie said, her voice shaky but still calm. She glanced down at her children. Alex looked confused, and Sophia's smile began to fade, sensing that something wasn't right. "I don't care about your reservation," Evelyn snapped, her tone biting. "People like you don't belong in a place like this. We don't serve your kind here." Maddie's stomach tightened in disbelief. "People like us?" Her mind raced as she tried to process what was happening. How could she say something like that? Maddie's fists clenched at her sides, but she knew she needed to stay composed. She didn't want to make the situation worse for her children. With a controlled but firm voice, Maddie asked, "What exactly are you saying?" Evelyn sneered, "You don't belong here. Take your business somewhere else. This is a fine dining establishment, not some cheap diner." Evelyn, however, didn't even seem to acknowledge her. She turned her back on the family and began to walk away, signaling the end of the conversation. "I said go, now." The surrounding guests murmured to each other, clearly uncomfortable, but no one stepped in to help. Maddie could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She glanced at her children, both clearly distressed by what had just happened. Sophia's eyes welled up with tears, and Alex clenched his fists, trying to hold back the anger that bubbled up inside him. This wasn't just a bad night, it felt like an attack on their dignity. Maddie stood still for a moment, her heart heavy, but her face remained calm and determined. "This isn't over," she said quietly to her children, though her voice was filled with resolve. "Let's go." As they walked back to their car, Maddie's thoughts raced. How dare she? The injustice of it all gnawed at her. Evelyn didn't just turn them away, she humiliated them. Maddie had worked so hard to build Grizzled, a place she had inherited from her late mentor, Mrs. Belgrove, a place where everyone was welcome, regardless of who they were or where they came from. And yet, here, she was being turned away at her own restaurant because of the color of her skin. As they drove away, Maddie's mind was already spinning with thoughts of how to handle this. She couldn't let Evelyn's actions stand. Evelyn doesn't know who she's dealing with. The Thompson family wasn't going to walk away quietly. Maddie would make sure Evelyn would never forget what she had done. The next morning, Maddie sat at her kitchen table, her fingers gripping her phone tightly. She had inherited Grizzled 5 years ago from Mrs. Belgrove, a woman who had taught her everything there was to know about running a successful restaurant. The restaurant wasn't just a business to Maddie, it was a part of her soul. She had poured her heart and soul into making it a place where everyone felt at home. To have that reputation tarnished by one person's hateful actions was unbearable. She dialed Rachel, her trusted restaurant manager and longtime friend. "Rachel, I need you to come to the restaurant today. We have something to take care of." Rachel's voice came through the phone, filled with concern. "Maddie, what's going on? You sound upset." Maddie took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. She explained everything: how Evelyn had turned them away at the door, the hateful comments she made, and how Maddie had been forced to leave with her children, humiliated and upset. Rachel's response was immediate and full of anger. "That's unacceptable. We can't let this slide. We need to fix this, and we need to do it right now." Maddie nodded, a fire lighting in her chest. "I'm not letting her get away with it. We're going to show her exactly what happens when you disrespect the wrong people." Later that day, Maddie and Rachel arrived at Grizzled to find the restaurant as busy as ever, with guests coming in and out, unaware of the drama that was about to unfold. As they approached the door, Maddie's pulse quickened. She wasn't just angry anymore, she was determined to set things right. Evelyn was standing near the entrance again, looking even more annoyed than before, when she saw Maddie and Rachel approaching. "You again?" she muttered, her voice dripping with disdain. But Rachel stepped forward, her voice commanding. "Step aside." Evelyn hesitated, taken aback by Rachel's authority. But she reluctantly moved to the side, unwilling to make a scene. Maddie approached Evelyn, her presence radiating power and confidence. "Evelyn," she said, her voice firm and unwavering, "I own this restaurant, and you just made a very big mistake." Evelyn's face turned pale as she realized the gravity of what was happening. "What?" she stammered. "I'm Maddie Thompson, the owner of Grizzled," Maddie continued, her voice steady. "And you just insulted me and my family in front of everyone here. Not only did you disrespect us, but you did it without knowing who you were speaking to." Rachel stepped in, her voice sharp and unforgiving. "You thought you could get away with this? You thought this place would let you bring hate and division inside its walls? We stand for respect, and we won't tolerate discrimination." Evelyn's face turned bright red, her hands trembling. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. She realized, perhaps for the first time, the weight of what she had done. Maddie shook her head. "I believe in second chances, but what you did goes against everything we've built here. You're fired." Evelyn's mouth dropped open. "Please, I didn't mean." "Yes, you did," Maddie interrupted, her voice cold. "And that's why you're leaving now. Gather your things and go." With her head bowed in shame, Evelyn quickly collected her belongings and walked out of Grizzled, her humiliation complete. The staff and customers who had overheard the exchange watched in stunned silence, some whispering to one another, but no one daring to speak up. Maddie turned to the guests, her voice loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Let me make something clear," she said, her tone resolute. "Grizzled is a place for everyone. We welcome everyone, no matter who they are, where they come from, or the color of their skin. We will never tolerate hate here." The silence in the room was broken by a round of applause. One by one, the customers clapped, and soon the entire restaurant was filled with supportive cheers. Maddie smiled, her heart swelling with pride. She had done the right thing. Her family came back that evening, and this time, they were greeted with warmth and kindness. The night that had started as a disaster had turned into a triumph of victory, not just for Maddie and her family, but for everyone who believed in equality, respect, and standing up against injustice. As they sat down to their meal, Maddie looked around at the familiar faces of the people she had worked so hard to welcome into her restaurant. She knew that Grizzled would always be a place of warmth, a place where hate had no place, and a place where anyone could walk through the door and feel at home. And so, Maddie Thompson's unwavering determination had turned an ugly moment into a powerful lesson about standing up for what's right, no matter the cost.